I'm sort of got a bit of a reputation for doing things off the top of my head, but could I, this is full disclosure, this is off the top of my head. The great Bobby Valentine came in. He wanted a lend of my 59 Cadillac for a photo shoot that he's doing. I'm going to ask him what the photo shoot was for in a minute. And I said, Bobby, the last time I saw you sort of really, or not professionally, because we didn't get paid, or I didn't anyhow, was when we filled in for Whitney Houston. Wait for this. She was contracted to sing for 2 shows at the Crown Casino. I don't know how many years ago. I'll ask him in a minute. And she came and sang the first show, and the second show she went down to Fidel's, the cigar bar, and she got absolutely fly-blown down there. She reckoned she had a cold, but I think the Bolivian booger sugar got hold of her, and she cancelled. And Lloyd Williams, who was there on the second night, said, holy shit, he said to me, I was sitting, I don't know, he came down, he said, Bobby Valentine's here, you couldn't go up and stand beside him, I've asked him to come and... So we went up and we took the place of Whitney Houston, and the crowd absolutely, seriously, they liked it as much. Well, they didn't like it as much as Whitney Houston, but Bobby was the star. I stood beside him and mouthed the words to songs I didn't know, and he was so grateful, Lloyd, and he's just come in because I think he's about to release a new album, and I said, come and have a chat to us. So there's a long-winded way of introducing the great Bobby Valentine.
What a fantastic intro, Sam. How are you?
Oh, I'm good, mate. Now, Bobby Valentine is your name?
Yeah.
I looked up Bobby Valentine in the 2 minutes you gave me notice that I could speak to you, and there's about 30...
Did it mention my baseball record?
I know. I saw Bobby Valentine is a great baseballer. So, Bob, well done. Now, just before I get on to anything else, you can either... Well, just tell us why you're having a picture in the Cadillac for a start.
It's the 25th anniversary of one of my favourite albums of all time by Eric Clapton and B.B. King, called Riding with the King. It's the 25th anniversary next year. So we're starting to do some promo to put the show out on the road. And the iconic cover, it doesn't actually feature a Cadillac. I was informed by somebody who knows a lot more about this than me that it was a Lincoln Continental.
With the suicide doors.
Yes, that's right, exactly right. But I asked around the motor trade for just a convertible, old American convertible, and your name popped up.
Good.
And well, the next thing you know.
Well, I've seen the original shot with B.B. King and Eric Clapton in it. And I just saw the photo shoot that you did, and if anyone can tell the difference that you're not sitting in a Lincoln Continental or as opposed to a 59 Cadillac, they're good, because they are, identical as far as the photo shoot went. Now, strangely enough, I was watching the 30th anniversary, or I think of Caesar's Palace reunion. This was about 20 years ago, but I was watching it on YouTube, and there was B.B. King and Eric Clapton.
Yeah. Well, they did a lot of stuff together.
They did.
Eric did does the annual Blues Fest.
Yep.
Which is in, I don't know where that is. I think it's in Atlanta or somewhere. And
in Georgia, yeah.
And they work together a lot. J.J. Cale and
all those
people.
Oh, I love it. I love watching it all. That country and it's called country and western stuff, I suppose, isn't it?
Blues.
Yeah.
Blues and Americana,
and the great Jerry Reed. Remember Jerry Reed?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I left my job down at the car wash and left my mum a goodbye note. By Sunday night at Kingston with my guitar under my coat. Hitchhiked all the way down to Memphis, got a room at the YMCA, and for the next 3 nights I kept hunting them bars looking for a place to play. He wrote that.
Hang on, just time out for a minute.
Yeah.
I did an Elvis show for a while.
Yeah.
And called The Hits, Not the Capes, or something like that, not the costumes. And
Elvis sang it.
I worked tirelessly. Elvis had a big hit with it.
Big hit.
I worked tirelessly to learn that bloody song, and I never got it even close.
No,
and you just rattled off
I know
the entire first verse.
I know it all. Jerry wrote it, and Elvis, Jerry Reed was shit scared that Ray... the bloke who sang all the...
Ray Stevens.
Ray Stevens was going to pinch it, and Elvis took it, and Elvis sang it. Jerry Reed does it on the guitar and plays a riff on the guitar, which is fantastic. But Elvis is fantastic singing. Yeah. I love my mama a good bone. Yeah, I know it all. I slept in the hobo jungle, roamed 1,000 miles of track until I found myself in Mobile, Alabama, in a place they call Big Jack's. A little 4-piece group was jamming, so I took my guitar and I sat in. Thought I'd show them what a band would sound with a swing a little guitar, man. Show them, son. And then he does a fantastic riff on it.
No, you're just showing off now. Come on.
I think. Now I'd ask you. Because that's what you're doing, and you've got. When's that album coming out?
We're not going to record an album. It's basically just a tribute show, but with a bit of a different twist to the fact that it's the 25th anniversary, so it's more a celebration of that.
So you will go and play at various venues.
It will be a limited season.
Yeah.
So,
and where will it be?
I'll
tell you who will be in the audience, Bobby.
Well,
me and young Susan here will be. If it's in Melbourne, is it where? It doesn't matter where it is. Where is he going to do it?
Well, we don't know.
Haven't got any venues yet.
I was just saying to Maddie, our photographer, that there's a bit of urgency because they book so far ahead these days that we're looking at bookings probably middle of next year if we get onto it.
Well,
right now.
If Lloyd Williams still has anything to do with the Crown Casino, if you said, I'd like, rang Lloyd up and said, I'd like to play at the Palms there, Lloyd. Well, I know it's pretty booked out and it costs a bit to actually rent the venue. Lloyd Williams would actually give you the casino for the night. He was so grateful that you got up out of the audience and saved the day with... all the people dressed up to their nines in at the venue at the Crown.
And I'll pick you up on a point of order there where you said we weren't as good as Whitney. But well, A, we were there, and B, the number of people that have come up to me to this day and said we had the best night. We were disappointed, obviously, but she said they all said
they did.
You were great. And they said, and we got our money back.
That's right. I wasn't great, but Lloyd, I think I don't know if I've already said this once, or I said it to you at the back. Lloyd was so grateful, and I see him once a month, have lunch with him and a few other people, and he mentions it every time. So
I do give him my best because we miss him.
Yes,
he did great things at Crown in those days.
He did. Yeah. He put Melbourne, if it needed to be put on the map, that venue, whether you like it or not, and all the naysayers, it put Melbourne, and probably not quite at the minute because it's a bit of a downturn in things that have gone on there in recent times, but he put Melbourne on the map with that thing. It was fantastic. Now, so Bobby, just let me just think where I was up to. I asked you about why you're doing that. I heard you say, or I just in the very sharp, small piece of information I could glean off the machine there, that's the phone, you've backed and sang with some very notable people, entertainers around the world. Now, have you actually sang with? Have you ever backed Whitney Houston? Did I see that or not? Did I make that up?
Whitney was a strange one because she was so sort of weird and paranoid.
Yeah,
and we had no interaction with her whatsoever.
Was Bobby? Is she married to Bobby?
I was going to say when you said. I was going to interject with when you said we were Whitney Houston for a night. I was going to say, well, you're obviously Bobby Brown.
Yes, that's right.
But the moment's been lost. But well, during that year, it was just a stellar year for us because we did Stevie Wonder. We were with Stevie Wonder for 5 nights, and I was supposed to
whereabouts
at Crown.
Yeah, at Crown. Where? This is all at Crown.
Yeah, all in Palladium, and we did Jerry Lewis twice. Did 2 seasons with Jerry Lewis. We did the opening was Anthony Warlow, Kylie Minogue, John Farnham Band, and Ray Charles.
This is the opening of the new casino.
Yeah.
So that's 25 years ago.
I don't know. The years are all a blur.
I reckon it's
something like that.
Yeah, that's extraordinary. Ray Charles. So. I'm not being facetious when I say this. So he's blind, Ray Charles, and Stevie Wonder. How do you get on with and communicate with people like that? I know that sounds a ridiculous question, but
no, it's actually quite a fair question.
Say, Stevie, I'm Bobby Valentine. I'm here. Do you tell them how big you are and what you are? And how do you speak to someone who's blind?
With Stevie, we had one very quick photo opportunity, and Lisa Edwards from John's band, did that gig with me, and we just stood either side of him. And the funny thing about the photo is that he's the only one that's looking at the camera. The two of us are sort of gazing into space.
That's brilliant.
But what was amazing about that was we spoke to him, and I introduced Lisa, and I said, "I'm Bobby Valentine. We were your opening act for the night." And Lisa said to me that whenever I spoke, he'd do the thing with his Stevie thing with his head.
That's right. Yeah.
And then he had to go. And when he walked away, the two of us just grabbed each other because the vibe we got from him,
fantastic.
I don't think we were touched him, like put the arm around his shoulder or anything. I don't think we're allowed to do that. I can't remember exactly, but we just grabbed each other and went, "What the hell was that?"
Yeah,
the vibration,
great moment
from the man himself was
so.
Just extraordinary.
And this will be another naive question. So, did you come in contact or within his company again? And did you say speak to him after the gig, and he remembered or recognised who you were?
No, we didn't. No, we didn't have any. We were supposed to. I was supposed to sing with them at the after party, and the after party was arranged for. I can't think of the name of the club now. Frank Stavala's club in Crown.
Yeah, not Fidel's.
Mercury.
That's correct. Yep.
And then apparently. And I was supposed to sing with him, so I spent the whole night panicking about that, and figured out actually it was Eddie Maguire's Bridal Waltz for once in my life, the Sinatra version of the Stevie song, and I thought I'll do that because anybody else that gets up with him is going to sing funky stuff, and white boys shouldn't sing funky stuff in my humble opinion. Well, this white boy certainly shouldn't, and I thought I'll do that, and that'll impress him, And then Frank apparently opened it up to the public, and Stevie sort of got wind of this and said, "After party's off." So, and I only found out recently that through my blog that somebody that worked at Crown at that time spent a lot of time. She was waiting on Stevie, attending to him and stuff, and she attended the after party that happened after the after party. So I missed out on that, but still got to stand next to him.
So, and Ray Charles. Now, Ray, this is legendary. Ray was a reasonable heroin user, and was he on the substance out here, or didn't matter if he was or not?
Well,
I suppose
we had
you don't know.
No interaction with him. I think
none.
I think that it was pretty much. So what happened at the opening? They used my orchestra, my big band, and then John's band was kind of the rock segment of the show, and Ray came out. It was a great reveal, actually. The band was all up there in full flight. The band launched into Hit the Road Jack, and they're all the Lindsay and Vanetta and Lisa are all pointing at John saying "Hit the Road Jack," and then the curtain flies back, and out they wheel Ray out on a little podium. It was just the best reveal of all time.
And he played the piano too.
He played. He only did about 3 songs. But I've got an interesting question for you. So he brought the others out, Kylie and Anthony Warlow. And he was just playing like a standard blues that everybody kind of knows. And they each took a verse. And out of the 4 of them, who do you reckon was the best, and who brought the house down?
Well,
Ray Charles, John Farnham, Kylie Minogue, and Anthony Warlow.
Well, I'm tempted to say Kylie, but it's probably John, was it?
No, it was Anthony.
Well, there you go. So I had 25% chance of being right, and I fucked it up.
But he blew the roof off.
Oh, that's
Absolutely
right.
blew the roof off. And, it's one of the purest theatrical voices or operatic voices in the land.
That's
and here
right.
he is bellowing his guts out, singing the blues.
If I'd been half a cryptic, I should have got that.
It was a trick question.
Because Judith Durham, she was but someone asked her to sing. I heard her sing. She sang a real up-tempo number, and she was fantastic at it, as opposed to the operatic voice that she had. Yeah. So if you're talented, you can do anything. Now, Bobby, that's a tremendous. So your band, you were huge then, Bobby. Your band backed them all, and you were the bee's knees.
I was
the duck's nuts.
I was,
and still are.
And we never thought it'd end us. I was going to say. No, they were amazing days, and I'm very, very thankful to have had them. You know, I'm in sort of semi-retirement now and enjoying that for what it is. But those days were just, the 80s were just extraordinary. And next time you see Mr. Kennett, ask him about the private party with the high roller from Hong Kong that Lloyd threw. So
every month. I told you this. We did it on our YouTube channel. Anyhow, I was on the way to the lunch. Eddie Maguire, Jeff, Lloyd, and a bloke called Tony Rosenberg, who's a great golf promoter. Right. We have dinner. We have lunch every month, and I'll ask Jeff, who's struggling a bit health-wise. Oh, but very absolutely. Yeah, no, he doesn't whinge, but he's. But I'll ask him, and I'll ask him to regale us. That'll be a good story over lunch, because so now. So who is the most memorable group person, for whatever reason, that you've played with or been in contact with or had an association with professionally?
Would have to be
woman or beast.
Would
whoever?
have to be Jerry Lewis.
Would it? Yep.
Because for lots of reasons. I mean, he's such an icon. He came back the second time. And he actually requested that I'd open for him again on the second time round. Yep.
Fantastic.
Which was a real shot in the arm for me. But he engaged with us. Like he'd poke his head in our dressing room as he'd make his way to the stage every night, and just he'd say, "So Bob, how are they tonight?" Which is the worst Jerry Lewis impersonation.
That's good. I know.
And he'd say, have you warmed them up for me? And I'd say, they're ready to go, Jer.
Yeah, Jer.
And he'd walk away, and all the boys would go, so Bob, I'd say, he knows my name. But
fantastic. So how many
he's a
nights?
Lovely man.
He was?
Yeah.
He was. He's not with us any longer, is he? No. So how many nights?
Both those seasons were 5 nights. So
fantastic
every night.
And did you speak to him other than him just dropping in? Did you have any?
Did
he mention Dean?
No, we never talked about
Dean. They made up after I think not speaking for 25 years.
Yeah,
they made up.
They were well and truly back together, or not performing together, but mates again.
Yeah, they were. Frank introduced them.
I think that was in the 90s or something like that.
Yeah, it was. Yep.
That they got. Yeah, that Frank did that. But there's a lovely story on the very first night, and we'd actually been taken up to his room the night before, and he was going live to the Vizard show, and we were taken up to have a few drinks and meet him and do all this stuff, and something went wrong, and he wasn't in a good mood, and so we got sort of shuffled out, and I was quite happy to be shuffled out because he had that reputation.
Did he?
And anyway, the next night we're lined up. That you'd be familiar with the tunnel behind the stage at Palladium, between the green room and the stage.
Yep.
And we're lined up there in the tunnel outside the green room, and he'd had a pretty poor show production wise. There'd been some lighting cues missed and some stuff that sort of left him a bit high and dry, and he wasn't in a good mood, and he was down the other end of the tunnel just tearing strips off the lighting guy.
Was he?
And we were sort of standing there shuffling our feet and sweating under the collar a bit. And I was sort of quite happy to actually, maybe leave it for tonight and come back tomorrow night and meet him then. Anyway, he came down and he met with a couple of people, and Lou, I can't remember his surname, was the entertainment director, and Lou introduced him, and it was like the Royal Command performance. He's being introduced one at a time. And I'm watching him, and I'm thinking, he's calmed down, it's going to be all right. And then he gets to me, and Lou said, this Mr. Lewis, this is Bobby Valentine, he's your support. And Jerry looked at me, and he says, what? And he said, he was your support. And Jerry's just looking me up and down. I'm thinking, this isn't going well, and I knew what was wrong. and I said, and I was too nervous to speak, and I eventually coughed up the fact, sorry, Mr. Lewis, what Lou means is I opened for you.
Yep.
And he said, oh, thank God for that, Bobby. I thought you're some kind of jockstrap.
Very good.
And he's a very nice man. And as I said, he'd put his head in and always check on us, and it was great.
So who would you have liked to have opened for, or that you didn't? You must... Elvis, I don't care, and you mightn't have this opinion. If Elvis is not the biggest that's ever been, you can add them all in, the Beatles, Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson, Frank, Elvis to me was it. Who would you have wanted to be in the company of and open for? Who would have given you most pride or satisfaction?
Being at Sinatra's 75th, was that Diamond Jubilee tour or whatever it was.
Yep. Was that with Lisa and Sammy?
No,
was that here?
No, it was the one after it. It was with Eddie Gourmet and Steve Lawrence.
Yes,
and
two great.
I'm being incredibly clear today.
That's good.
Moments of clarity, all lined up together.
They were great, Edie and Stevie.
And it'd probably be Frank. I don't know. I'm a Beatles tragic. I loved Elvis.
I'm a Frank tragic, but. Clinically speaking, if there's been anyone bigger than Elvis, I'd like to. I've even Taylor and the country and western singer Garth Brooks.
Oh, Garth Brooks.
He's huge. Yeah. He's as big as any of them, apparently. But Elvis for me. So now, John Farnham, do you have a relationship with him?
Yeah. Well,
and have you seen him since?
No, I haven't. I play regularly with band members, Angus and Lindsay.
Do you?
And those guys, and Craig. And but no, John's keeping his own company mainly these days, which is understandable. And no, we had a good relationship back in the day, and I just recently watched the documentary, and that sort of took me back to those days when we were all recording jingles and things at AAV Studios, and they'd started to record Whispering Jack, and John used to come into the studios, and everyone knew him, of course, and he'd sort of bounce around the place and drive us all mad, and I had a bet with one of the reception girls that Whispering Jack wouldn't be a hit, and the reason for that was I thought it was too good. We were hearing it.
Yep.
Dougie Brady, who was the engineer, Mike's younger brother, was. He'd let us in, at the end of the day, and we'd have a listen to what they were doing, and I just thought, this is phenomenal. His fans are never going to go for this, and I was more than happy to be proven wrong.
Yeah, you were,
but
Bobby.
Then, but we've arrived one day, and Whispering, You're the Voice had just started to take off, and Johnny became John.
Yeah, John, that's right.
And I walked in one day, and we were, in recording jingles or something like that. And I noticed that all the girls they'd just taken a bit more trouble. They were all froofed up, and they all looked fantastic. And the tops were a little bit slung lower, and the hair was a bit higher, and all of that sort of stuff. I said, "What's going on, girls?" And they said, "Oh, John's coming in today." Oh. I'm like, "Who's John?" And they went, "Farnham, you idiot."
I know he tried to do an album with Dame Kerry Takanawa.
Yeah.
Is that her name? Yep. Dame Kerry
Takanawa.
And she, so it was reported, wouldn't do it with him. She thought,
wow,
not his music, but the music he sang was beneath her.
Right. Okay.
And so she didn't do that. I just remember that because that would have been plenty of people do duets with unlikely couples and their hits, but so. In the eight, now I'll know all these people, and I don't know what year you were born in, Bobby, but I know I'm older, much older than you. I'll remember all these people. In the 80s, who were the big Australian stars in the 80s, music-wise? I know the Easy Beats and all that were in the 60s, and AC/DC, and who were your peers?
Yeah, well, I think the obvious ones for me were Australian crawl, because we had a
Yep.
couple of mates in Aussie crawl, and that was Paul Williams, who was the bass player, was a good mate of ours, and literally said, "I've got this gig with this band, and they're called Australian Crawl." And we went, "Well, what a dumb name for a band!" And he played me the demo, or played us the demo of Boys Light Up.
Yeah.
And and we went, "Well, it's catchy, but we can't understand a word he says." And so another great story was Boom Crash Opera in the studios when we were there, and because we'd spend almost all day, Wendy Stapleton and myself and Linda George and all those people would be in the studios all day doing silly jingles, making a living, and we heard Onion Skins, which was not Boom Crash's first hit. I think it was about their third single or something like that, and that was fantastic. A lot of those bands, went through the Studio One while we were in there doing Aussie Kids or Weet-Bix Kids.
Yeah. And have you ever done any jingles? Have you done any commercial work?
Yeah, well, that was not stock in trade. For me, it was a bit of icing on the cake. But I'm probably best known as the voice of David Jones.
Are you?
Yeah, I was 8 years as "There's no other store like David Jones."
Were you?
Yeah.
Would many people know that?
No,
I didn't know that.
No, it's got me one free cab ride.
Fantastic. So you wouldn't have been around, Bobby. I know this, when I saw the Beatles in '64, and I saw Joe Cocker drink a bottle of scotch. Might have drunk 2 bottles of scotch on stage while he sang "Mad Dogs and Englishmen." I saw Louis Armstrong, and so it's been a fantastic scene. It's certainly changed, hasn't it? What are the biggest changes you've noticed in the industry that you're in? It's all I don't suppose it's rap, but all those boys come out now. Shane Warne's great friends. Who are they called? Sue, what's that group called? God, they were just out here. They sell the joint out. Coldplay,
oh, right,
all
yeah,
those,
of course, yeah.
All those. So it's all changed a bit, hasn't it?
Yeah, I kind of went to sleep when Jimi Hendrix died and woke up in the 2000s and just wondered what's happened.
That's right.
I sort of didn't. I got really heavily into jazz, even though I was doing like corporate gigs and jingles and things like that through the 80s. Where I was listening mainly to jazz and that sort of stuff, and.
What sort of jazz?
Oh, well, you know what?
Who's the trumpeter? James Morrison?
Yeah,
Is he a jazz player?
worked with James a few times.
Have you? Yeah.
No, mainly American and very pretty wild. I was right into Weather Report and George Benson before he became George Benson. And I listen to it now, and it's very avant-garde and very frantic. And I'm not saying I don't like it, but I'm a bit surprised that that's what I was listening to back then.
And if you had to drive in the car somewhere up the country and you had to have someone on the radio, who would you listen to?
Listening to the radio is something I don't do much these days.
Musically, I mean.
Oh, musically?
Yep.
I listen to RN a lot, and they...
Radio National?
Radio National, yeah.
Glad I got that. What do they play music?
They used to. That was the point I was going to make, was that I first got onto it just as they were being sort of shut down by a management change or changed by management. Mm-hmm. And they had some fantastic music programs on, and then they all got squashed by, I can't remember her name, but the CEO that took over, and only lasted about 12 months or something. But she'd kind of gone through...
Not Ida?
No.
Different,
not
the
radio.
ABC? No.
Michelle something.
Whatever.
It is ABC, but it's sort of the backwater.
So you don't listen to music. You don't listen to any favourite music.
I don't listen to commercial radio.
No,
because the ads drive me nuts, and I don't do any of them anymore.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of sour grapes.
You should do My Store, you can do that.
I did it at one stage.
Did you?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we did. We have no conscience in that world. Like we would do. I did David Jones and Myers at the same time.
Yeah, did you?
And we did the funniest ones were the political ones because Valentine isn't my real name. I don't know whether you know this.
Well, when we sat down here, I said, "Is Bobby Valentine your real name?" And you said yes.
Did I look you in the eye and say that?
No, I was just when I saw Bobby Valentine was a famous baseballer, I thought, "Is that your name? What is your? Do you want to say what your name is or not?"
It's Gillard.
Gillard
is my real name. Yeah,
Bob Gillard.
Yeah. So,
isn't there someone famous called Bob Gillard? No, that's a cricketer. Who? Oh, yeah, I know. Bob,
which caused us no end of trouble. But when we did political commercials, jingles at election time, and we do all the parties, and because you had to put your name up on the, the disclaimer at the end, written and authorised by and performed by blah blah blah, and they used to put Wendy Stapleton and Bob Gillard because we did a whole lot. So
wow.
We did cop all sorts of flack from people coming up and saying, "What are you doing supporting those idiots?" And they had no idea.
And so where'd Valentine come from?
I can't even remember. We were in a crazy band called the Lonely Boys, and I think we just all took assumed names.
On Valentine's Day, you were feeling lonely and thought, "I'd like a Valentine's."
Every day's Valentine's Day, Sam.
Well, now, finally, Bobby, this is, as I say, I apologise if you're listening to this. Well, you would. I don't have to apologise if you're not listening to it because you won't know I said that. But I have no notes at all. I'm just doing this off the top of my head because you're a fascinating person who... if you had to watch someone on screen, films, who captivated you on the screen? Seeing as you're in the entertainment industry, I know that's a pretty lame Dorothy Dix question, but who was one? There you go. What's the best? What's one of the best films you've seen?
Easy question, Sam. Is Jack Nicholson One Flew Over the Cuckoo's
Nest?
Nest?
Yep.
My all-time favourite. I've watched it about 20 times. Jack Nicholson mesmerises me, and when you compare Cuckoo's Nest with As Good as It Gets,
yes, yep.
Just the scope of
he
the
is,
man.
as we say, an enigma.
He is, and probably number one of my top 5 people that I'd like to meet.
Oh, come on, give us the other 2 or 3.
Number 2 I've met is Billy Connolly.
Have you? He's struggling.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, he's really struggling.
Yeah, he's very ill, dementia and associated illnesses, which is sad. John Lennon is very ill, and
yes,
he's off. Yeah, struck off the
chart.
List. McCartney, there's still hope there because I recorded an album, a couple of songs earlier this year down in Tasmania with a mate of mine, Chris Thomas, who worked with McCartney and worked with the Beatles on the White Album.
Yep.
And so I'm constantly in Chris's ear to get an intro to the great man.
Fantastic.
And but they're not talking to each other at the moment. So.
And I was watching last night again on the YouTube. They said, have a look at Ringo Starr's car collection, and I was interested in the cars for obvious reasons. And they said Ringo, who lives in about 8 different places around the world, he's worth $500 million. I couldn't believe it. A man from bloody, just a dribbler from, could play the drums. I thought, holy shit.
Well, when they split up, here's a fun fact for you. When they split up and the 4 of them did their first solo albums, Ringo's was the top selling out of
Yellow Submarine.
No.
Was it?
No, it was called Bucoup Blues. Bucoup
Blues. I think he did
It had the song that he wrote with George Harrison called Photograph on it, and it was a huge hit. And he outsold the other 3.
I thought, maybe I got that wrong. I thought they said he sang Yellow Submarine. Would that be right? Yeah,
he sang it. Yeah, he didn't write it, and that was recorded.
They said that was the most successful out of the solo songs that the 4 of them sang.
Really, I didn't know
That's what they said. I don't know.
You've trumped me.
No,
sorry to use the
Trump.
word.
Well, were you happy that the Trump man got in? I shouldn't get into politics because you'll ostracise half your audience. Now, Bobby, this has been fantastic. An impromptu chat to you. You're a great man, and it's been really interesting. The great Bobby Valentine, knee Gillard, but Bobby Valentine, stick with that, mate. Don't go the Gillard track.
I'm stuck with it now.
Yeah, it's I'm Sam. Twin. I use people to know. John's my name, but if no one knows who they're talking about, if you say Dom. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Bobby Valentine.
It's been fun. Thanks.